As the 2025 fantasy baseball season comes to a close, today is the day we hand out awards to some of the best and worst players from the season on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Wane. As you can see if you're watching on YouTube, and if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things, please once again make sure you subscribe. And if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you do that for us as well. And listen, guys, as we head into the offseason, you're going to want to join us on the Insider's Track, where we're talking about dynasty players, keepers. We're going to be talking about our 2026 rankings and so much more. So the link is in the bio if you do want to join us on the Insider's Track. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine flavor an upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Go to 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And guys, listen, that's it. It's in the books. You know, if you're listening to this episode, the fantasy baseball season, regular baseball, well, not the regular baseball season's over, not the playoffs. You know, we still got playoffs for regular season. And we will still be here with you 5 days a week, probably until November-ish. We slowed down around that time, but we're going to do team reviews. We have a lot more fun stuff planned for the offseason. So you're going to want to make sure you stick around. But today we do awards. Matt, where are we starting, brother? You take your pick. We're going to start with some of the worst, best rookies. Well, what do we got on today's docket?
All right, so I'm going to start off with my fantasy baseball MVP of the season. A guy that I believe, Dom, if you can look this up, what this player's ADP was. Who is, I say, not only just the highest producer that you drafted, but also the most valuable pick that you had all season. And how I'm respecting that is Kyle Schwarber from the Philadelphia Phillies, the outfielder. Dom, you have his ADP?
I sure do. So Kyle Schwarber was coming off the board as the 15th outfielder around pick 44.
So what does that tell you? Well, he was incredibly valuable because your ROP, which is return on pick, if you're new to the show, is astronomical. You got a fourth rounder, essentially, or a late third rounder that performed on a first round level caliber performance. On top of that, he was absolutely incredible all season long. Now, we knew that he had this kind of upside in terms of power. Now, 50 some odd home runs. Now, that was a whole nother animal. But the fact that he was able to maintain close to a 250 batting average for the whole season, that was the key part, right? And you've heard us talk about Kyle Schwarber all off season long. If the dude managed to hit anywhere from 240 to 250, he would be a second round pick in a lot of our drafts and our rankings because of that. And Kyle Schwarber, if you picked him this year, which I did say in the offseason contract year, I'm all about him this year. I want a piece of him. This was why. The ROP kind of pretty much thrusted you from, having a good team with Kyle Schwarber on it that had 30 home run upside to now having probably the best power team possible because you drafted where he was one of your power hitters, but not your, focal point of your power source. Kyle Schwarber wholeheartedly was your best pick in the draft, in my opinion, outside of maybe Dom's guy. But for me, it was Kyle Schwarber this year.
No, man, that's such a great take. Schwarber, listen, man, career year at age 32, really, I want to say unexpected because I don't really think too many people, not that he couldn't do it, but 56 home runs is monstrous. That's a career high 132 RBI, a career high 111 runs, tying his career high in steals with 10. And as far as batting average goes, when you're talking about a full season, right next to his career high, only a few points off his career high when we're talking about 150 games plus. Last year would have been his career high at 248. He's 245 batting average this year. Listen, Kyle Schwarber is going to go into next year, I want to say, as like a top 5 outfielder, if he still has eligibility on Yahoo. I know in some formats he might be DH only. Matt and I specialize in Yahoo format. That's what we play most of our leagues in, and he did retain eligibility there. But even as a utility player, if he's only UT eligibility in the league that you play in, I don't want to say he's going to be a first round kind of guy, but I wouldn't be mad if you take him there. Ohtani gets taken at that point, and besides the batting average, Schwarber was just as good, man. Schwarber career year, love him going into next year. Let's keep things moving. I want to talk about my fantasy baseball MVP for the year, and it's Cal Raleigh. I think it's hard to go in any direction. I think Schwarber's a great choice, but listen, Cal Raleigh was being taken as his ADP did rise when, we were getting closer to the season. I think some people kind of had an idea he was going to have a breakout year, but not to this level. Cal Raleigh was the 5th catcher off the board, pick 88. And he finishes the year as the number 5 overall player in 5x5 categories leagues on Yahoo. Schwarber was the number 8 overall player on the year, by the way. Cal Raleigh finishes with 110 runs, 60 homers, 125 RBI, 14 steals, and a 246 batting average. Boy, oh boy, I think he's obviously going to be the number 1 overall catcher taken in 2026. But let's say this, William Contreras was the number 1 overall catcher taken this past season, and he was being taken at pick 33. I'm not going to be super mad at you if you're, in the 3rd round. If you take Cal Raleigh in the 2nd round, I'll be a little mad at you. But the 3rd round, yeah, sure. But you're still going to be I'm not going to do it. But you're going to still be banking on 50 home runs. You're going to be banking on, a lot of RBIs, a lot of runs. And catchers normally, at least in this era, we're talking about years ago, when you had the Piazzas and, the guys like that, Ivan Rodriguez, it was a little bit different, but we haven't had a lot of stud catchers in the past, I want to say 5 years where we're taking them consistently at the top. I feel like we've had a lot of movement of late. So I don't know if I'm going to pay the price for Cal Raleigh, but definitely kudos, to Raleigh for, a monster season here. In Seattle, really broke out, and those numbers, as I mentioned, absolutely phenomenal for Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, I thoroughly was surprised by Riley as a whole. Dude's always had power, but this kind of season is ridiculous. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he actually won the real MVP award, like wholeheartedly, not just the fantasy award. The 60 some odd home runs, like, whew, super impressive. You want to talk about ROP? There you go. You know what I'm saying? So that's really where it is. So Cal Raleigh, phenomenal, great take, Dom. I'm gonna sneak this guy in real quick. So Cy Young, Tarik Skubal for me. Obviously, one of the top guys, that were pretty much interchangeable this season between like the top 3 this year between Wheeler, Skenes, and Skubal himself. For me, it's just Skubal. I got my return on my pick. There wasn't a lot of question marks, and it was the safest choice. Definitely well worth it. Handled it, and anybody leaning towards the Skeen side, cough cough Dom. I don't blame you. I think it's interchangeable. Both of them had a phenomenal season, and it's just one of those things. And for me, it just Scubal stuck out just based off of the fact that there was just a little bit more confidence going into the season. And I knew that, if I had to get somebody now, him doing it 2 years in a row just solidifies him as my SP1 overall, because now we're seeing 2 years of strong consistency, over 190 innings in both seasons, with sub 250 ERAs through 2 seasons, and well over 200 and change strikeouts. It's just amazing. He actually got an extra mile per hour on his fastball this year. Everything just just took a level up. Tarik Skubal, I think, is going to be the number 1 pitcher in fantasy baseball for some time coming.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Scubal's my guy. If anyone who's a longtime listener of the podcast, you guys know, dating back to 2022, I was a big Skubal guy, and then when he was coming off the injury, I believe it was into 2023, I told everyone to stash him. I actually have Skubal in quite a few of my different leagues out there, so I'm a big Skubal guy, and yeah, of course, definitely deserves it as well. But I think you can't, like as Matt said, they're kind of interchangeable at this point. Paul Skenes is going to be my choice for fantasy baseball Cy Young, And for good reason. We talked about Skubal stats. Let's do Skenes' numbers. And honestly, I think if Skenes played for a semi-decent team, the wins would look a lot better as well. Because Skenes, a 1.97 ERA. So that's 2 years in a row with a sub-2 ERA for Skenes. 32 starts this year, 10 wins. 187 innings pitched, 216 strikeouts, and he had a 0.9 whip. I think Skubal and Skenes are going to be, the top 2 pitchers in fantasy baseball for a long time coming. And Skenes is only 23. So, I think Skenes, just the future is, if he keeps it at this level, Hall of Fame type guy. The pitching is there. The pitchers are there. He can really just do it all. But before we move on and we give out the rest of these awards, we got the best pickup coming up. We got the biggest bust and so much more coming up next.
Caffeine just for a flavor. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients. With 0 sugars, 0 crashes. What I love the most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shots you can get in anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I always reach for my favorite flavor, which is great because it's refreshing and gives me that quick lift before a busy day. I've been eyeing the new limited holiday pumpkin spice flavor too. It sounds like the perfect one to try next. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in, and that's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love, be bold, and try something new in store or online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. This episode is brought to you by Zippix Toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or energy boost, Zippix has you covered. With the nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks the nicotine users Zippix provides is a discreet and satisfying way to create for your cravings. And a hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking, Zippix can be helpful tool for you to work to reduce your dependency on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligrams, 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you ever needed energy without crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. I've used the caffeine toothpicks before in big meetings, long drives, gives me extra energy without all the jitters, and the flavors like peppermint watermelon ice actually taste great. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com and use the code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 years or older. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON, zip more. And I'll tell you this, they actually did send us a little sample. The caffeine one is fire, and I wish I had that when I quit smoking years ago. I probably wouldn't have gained 30 pounds. So Zippix, it is fire. And look, you want a little bit more than what we were offering in this 30-minute podcast, make sure to check us out on the Insider Track this offseason. Look, we're here. It's offseason. We're prepping for 2026 already. What to expect in this 2026 preparation? Rankings, obvious, sleepers, breakouts, busts individually from Dom and I, not just a consensus here on the show, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, plus being able to ask us questions. Check us out. Links in the description below. And, a little insider notice too. I've been locked out of our account, so we will be getting restored soon. So sorry for not answering. But without further ado, Dom, I've talked for a good whole 40 minutes at this point. Please take this away.
Yeah, let's do best pickup. So I'll do a quick honorable mention just because I think he kind of deserved it. Nolan McLean, but he's not the ultimate winner for me. If you picked up Nolan McLean, he was awesome down the stretch for you. But this guy was really good for a lot longer. Trevor Rogers goes over to Baltimore this year and kind of has a resurgence of his career, which I don't really think anyone expected. So if you picked up Trevor Rogers this year, man, paid off for you. 18 starts, 9 wins, a 1.81 ERA, and 0.9 whip. 109 innings pitched, and 103 strikeouts. Now, if you're newer to fantasy baseball, you might not remember Trevor Rogers, who in 2021 had a monster showing as a 23-year-old. He started 25 games, had a 2.64 ERA that year, 133 innings, 157 strikeouts. He had a 115 whip, and he was second in Rookie of the Year voting that year. So, I mean, Trevor Rogers kind of always had some talent, some upside. And I'll say this year, he kind of got back to the similar pitch mix that he had in that 2021 season where he led fastball changeup. His velocity on the fastball isn't back to what it was back then, but he's back to around 93. He sat around 94 back in 2021, but he was only at 92 last year. He was actually sub 92 last year on the fastball. So I think some of the changes in the gains are real here with Trevor Rogers. A lot of the underlying stuff believes in what he did. He might not be a sub 2 ERA guy, but, could you see a low 3s ERA with a decent whip and around a K per 9? Definitely. He gets enough ground balls, moves over to Baltimore. It's a good park over there. If this team could actually maybe turn it around and win some games next season, I could see some wins for Trevor Rogers. So if he's a guy I'm kind of going to be targeting as maybe my 5th, 6th starting pitcher, depending on the format next year. If I can get him there, it'd be great, but I kind of do think he's going to be elevated a bit more than that, just because people are going to see the numbers and remember the upside that a guy like Trevor Rogers has.
I don't know how inflated, though. I mean, I will say this, even though he had a nice season, I think that there's still going to be some hesitancy. Is it repeatable? And that's going to be kind of like the main point. And also too, he also is a forgotten song. I mean, it's been 4 years since relevancy. So, I think a lot of people are going to kind of let him fall a bit. I think honestly, probably where his ADP will probably be is, probably SP4 or 5, and I wouldn't be mad at that price. I think that's kind of the right price too, if I'm really being honest, just with the uncertainties. But everything on the back end kind of supports his performance too. It's not like this was just a hollow, comeback. Like, even though he lost the fastball velocity of 1.5 miles per hour, he gained from that 2021 season where he had, that elite season everybody expected him to follow in 2022. He has better movement on his breaking balls this year and phenomenal movements back on his fastball and off-speed pitches. So, that was kind of his biggest issue over the last 4 years was then pretty much the flat line and no movement on any of his pitches. Now it's back to that. You're starting to see things come in that way. You're starting to see him be able to create, more chase opportunities, create more whiff opportunities, obviously get the strikeouts and walks. Everything's kind of going with that. He has, a very elite barrel against him, 7.6%. I just wish he would suppress more hard contact, but at least he makes up for it with ground balls. He does a really good job. And honestly, too, based off of, the pitch mix and things like that, he's also incorporated, the sleeper, the slider and sweeper more into it. So it's not like he's super, fastball changeup. I mean, he's 65% between the two, but at least he's mixing in the other two at, 15, 12, and 7%. So there's other things to look at versus his 3-pitch mix back in the day that was pretty heavily relied on. And you kind of knew what he was getting at after a while. And I think the league figured him out for the last couple of years. So developing the new pitches, things like that, Trevor Rogers really just took a step forward as a whole. But, love him. But let's move on. Let's talk about Nick Kurtz. Honestly, wholeheartedly, the best pickup in all of fantasy baseball. I'm deeming it. And he's also my next category too. So it's a twofold. He is my rookie of the year as well. The dude was a smoke show this year. Nick Kurtz came out of nowhere, not thinking he was even going to get the call this year, but thrusted his way up. And also, if you didn't stick around in certain leagues, which, I was in a league where my team was stout and I dropped him because he just wasn't performing and then he got hurt. So I dropped him. If you held through the injury and you held him through the IL, when he came back from the injury list, he started breaking out to the guy that literally ended with 35 home runs and 413 at bats and only played 115 games. And the fact that he had 88 runs and 84 ribs on a team that, yes, I think is talented and young, but not a team that you're known for, super high OBP and OPS and things like that, and OBP, where he's going to have opportunities to not only get driven in, but also ribbies. That speaks volumes of how well he was doing and making sure that he didn't leave a lot of guys on base. Nick Kurtz really wholeheartedly just performed this year. The 291 batting average in your rookie year too, super rare. And I think that he's actually going to be a guy that we might see a little bit of negative regression, I think, in the in the batting average category with the extra, I would say, 50 some odd games, 40 some odd games. But even so, the league didn't figure him out after 413 at bats and 115, games. I think that most of this elite stuff is here to stay. And actually, there's probably a whole nother level. I wouldn't be surprised if this kid is being drafted in the top 3 rounds. And I wouldn't even blame you. I think he's going to be probably a top 3 first baseman going into 2026 for me.
You know what, Matt? Before I jump in and give my take on Kurtz, and I mention my rookie of the year, and then we're gonna do the biggest bust of the year. Those and more coming up next. And all right, you've probably seen a million ads for, hair growth products and thought, sure, that actually works, right? There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, and it's not just hype, right? This is a clinically tested that targets root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Whether you are at work, out with friends, or even just getting ready in the morning, Nutrafol gives you more confidence in your daily routine. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in only 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB customers $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. Once again, that's Nutrafol.com, and you're going to use the promo code Locked On MLB. And Matt, great take on Kurtz there. We were switching things up today. We were trying to take one player each for this. Obviously, if I could take Kurtz, we gave it to Matt. Matt's been a little bit more of a Kurtz guy. I'm on the bandwagon now, but Matt's been a little bit more of a Kurtz guy than I have. So, Matt took Kurtz on, the rookie of the year, but I would pick him too if I could. Definitely deserves it. Matt, great breakdown on Kurtz. I think you hit the nail on the head. The only one he's going to be, I think he's going to be without a doubt a second round pick next year. Late second, early third. I think that's happening without a doubt. The only one concern is maybe just the batting average, as Matt talked about a little bit earlier. The underlying stuff for batting average says maybe he's, bats a little bit lower than the 290 batting average we saw this year. And then over the last month, he's hit 217, but that still comes with 20 runs, 8 bombs, and 14 RBIs as well. So I just think the thing with Kurtz is does he become more of a Freddie Freeman or does he become more of a Kyle Schwarber? Either way, you're still getting a monster fantasy player. It's just a matter of what kind of path he takes. Matt, if you want to jump back in, go ahead, brother.
I got one thing. I think the best comp is going to be for him a even better Matt Olson.
You know what, Matt? That's actually not a bad comp. I think, when you talk about some of Matt Olson's seasons where he hits the 275 with the 40 home runs, I think that's going to be spot on for Kurtz. Yeah, maybe he does land somebody somewhere in the middle of the Schwarber. Who else? Damn, I'm losing my train of thought. He lands somewhere in the middle of the Freeman Schwarber, which is kind of like a Matt Olson. I definitely that's a great comp. But let me move on. Let me talk about my rookie of the year because I had to take somebody else. Let's talk about Chandler Simpson, man. I don't think Chandler Simpson got enough love in the fantasy baseball community outside this podcast. Honestly, I know Matt and I talked about him a lot, but I just don't recall everyone else being as excited as we are about Chandler Simpson. Has a great rookie season. Finishes the year with 53 runs, no homers, but that's not who he is. You're not taking him for homers. 26 RBIs, 44 steals, and a 295 batting average. If you've been playing fantasy baseball for a long time, if you've just been watching baseball for a while, my comp is D. Gordon. And we loved D. Gordon when it came to fantasy baseball because you knew you were going to get a great batting average. You knew you were going to get a bunch of steals. And I think the same thing is going to be applicable with a Chandler Simpson. When you look at the underlying stuff, the two things that you want him for, he's elite at, which is the sprint speed. He's in the 97th percentile of sprint speed, gets around those bases really fast. And when you look at the underlying stuff for batting average, great in that department too. The X batting average is 299, and he hit 295 on the season. So I think he's going to be a great batting average guy with a lot of speed. And then there's the potential that the runs could be really good too. He's been leading off. He wound up finding a home at the leadoff spot, for Tampa Bay towards the end of the season here. So if he's leading off next season, I could see a 290 season with 90 runs, 50, 60 steals. And listen, he's going to be a 3-category stud. So, you're going to have to get your power and RBI somewhere else. But I think Chandler Simpson is definitely going to be somebody I'm targeting going into the 2026 season, and definitely is going to be a solid player for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the whole combo of him. It's just really just a matter of what the price is going to look like for him in 2026. You know, he's much better than other guys that we've saw. We actually haven't really had a D Gordon in a very long time. There's always guys that like we kind of say, oh, like this is a guy you can get late in the game and he'll steal you 50 stolen bases, but he's gonna bat like 14. And that's kind of like the thing. Like Chandler Simpson is, hey, he's going to be productive. He's not going to nuke your batting average. He's going to steal your bases, and he's on a team where he's going to be driven in. At least a really studly, full blown, 3-category contributor, which also is going to be able to chip in other things. So Simpson's a great pick for your rookie of the year candidate. There, this class was really good, but also not as good as the previous year where there was a little bit more of discussion. So let's move on though. Let's talk about our fantasy bus. And before I put out my name, because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate every time I mention him and poop on this guy, TikTok obliterates me. So literally I think our highest video on TikTok is me poo-pooing on him and people thinking I'm talking about real baseball. This is fantasy related content, and the reason why Mookie Betts of the Los Angeles Dodgers is my bust is because what we paid for him in the draft, not because of what he did out on the field. And he did not help you win a championship this year. He was a good, consistent fantasy player that should have been drafted in the 7th round instead of the 1st round. And that's really just the key part. And let's go over why. 581 at bats, 95 runs, 23 doubles, 2 triples, 20 bombs, 82 ribs, 8 stolen bases, and had a batting average of 262. All right, look, OBP was 330, a slug 411, OPS 741. Okay, right? But here's the thing. I think we're kind of holding on to the elite Mookie Betts that we've seen as like, pretty much like the standard gold platinum level of, fantasy assets, right? A guy that's consistent every year. But here's the thing. In 2023, he had an average exit velocity of 92. In 2024, he had an average exit velocity of 89. Then in this year, starting to 89.1. It's slowly coming down. On top of that, we're starting to see him chase a little bit more. We're starting to see him do things that just aren't Mookie Betts-esque. The barreling percentage has gone down exponentially. It's well under league average at 5.5. The hard contact is at 36%, whereas he's had way better hard contact numbers in the past. Bat speed is way down. The only thing that he really still has going for him in points leagues, at least, is he has great plate discipline. Guy doesn't strike out as much. Pretty much keeps his walk to strikeout percentage at like almost 0, which is phenomenal, right? Which means he does not hurt you and isn't super productive either, which is good, especially for points leagues. But in the like head-to-head and roto leagues, that doesn't really help you unless you have walk percentage and strikeout and walk to strikeout ratios. That is kind of where Betts isn't doing it. The 30 home run days are done. The stolen base numbers have been done for quite some time now. And now the batting average is not, closer to 300. It's now the expected batting average is 272 and he hit 262. Where are we next year, especially with a decreasing bat speed? Ultimately, like Mookie Betts is no longer a 1st-round talent, top 5 talent and top 5 round talent. I think we need to start looking at him as he's a very good option at the key positions where he has multiple position eligibility, especially like the second base and shortstop aspects. Other than that, I really don't want to touch Mookie Betts past before the 5th, 6th-ish round anymore. I think Mookie Betts is kind of downward turn, and we're starting to see that now.
Well, I don't know if I agree with everything there. I'll say this. What you said about Nick Kurtz when you were talking about how Nick Kurtz got hurt and if he stuck in there with him. So Mookie Betts had a lot of stuff going on this year. Obviously, really, really bad first half, but he finished strong. So if you didn't trade him, or I hope you didn't drop him. But if you hung in there, the last 45 games for Betts, he's been solid. 178 at bats, 32 runs, 8 doubles, a triple, 9 bombs, 34 RBIs. Hitting 331 over that time with 19 walks, 16 strikeouts. Hasn't stolen a base, though. So I don't think Mookie Betts is going to really steal bases anymore like that. Going to be 33 next season. So I still think he can do, I still think there's going to be a little bit of power, still going to be some batting average. The runs and RBI should be good, as long as he's on this Dodgers team. I don't foresee him moving, but definitely not a first round talent. Mate, if you want to get frisky in the second, I could see it. Kind of depends on what the eligibility is going to be too on your platform. I know on Yahoo he has second, short, and outfield, so he's a little bit of a cheat code there. Maybe the third round. If I can get him in the third round, I'd be looking at him there. But let's do a little bit on this last guy, my bust of the season, Brenton Doyle. Man, this was a crazy one. He was being taken so high for no good reason other that he plays in Coors, and he had a little bit of a good season, last year. He was being taken as the 25th outfielder, pick 73. And what's crazy? Cody Bellinger was going right after him. Riley Green and Christian Yelich were going after him, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. But Brenton Doyle finished the year with 137 games played, 233 batting average, 57 runs, 15 homers, 57 RBIs, and 17 steals. Definitely was not return on your pick at all. He finished the season as the 700th, and I'm sorry, that's over the last 30 days. Let's do the season total real quick. He finished as like the 300 plus player in all of Yahoo when it comes to 5x5 head-to-head categories leagues. So Brenton Doyle was just a straight out bust. Hope you didn't take him.
So here's the thing. Doyle actually was dealing with some personal issues. I couldn't find the actual news. And
True. Once again, Matt, like you said earlier, I should have prefaced that. I'm sorry, guys. Mm-hmm. Fantasy baseball take. Nothing against people who have stuff going on in their personal life, stuff outside of baseball. Tough year for Doyle, but when I'm talking about what we paid for him in terms of fantasy baseball, it didn't work out.
I mean, your take was spot on. It's just, we have to preface he's a human. If anything, he's going to be a great value next year because there's going to be a lot of fantasy managers that are disappointed. I definitely will take the shot. Now the cost is a lot better in 2026. But ultimately for 2025, he was a bust. I mean, flat out that, what is the epitome of bust? If you look at the definition, Brent Doyle's face is right there in terms of 2025. But it's nothing against the player. I mean, not everybody can be Carlos Rodon, who's dealing with his wife that has cancer and just having one of the best seasons he's had in a couple of years. Like, they're human beings. So Brent Doyle, I wish you well. I hope everything gets good in 2026. I
wish you well, brother.
In 2026, I hope you bring me fantasy glory when I get you at a really great price. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, bring it to you each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure to check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Peace out, guys. Yeah.